Hello, my name is Austin Tamargo, and today I'm making this video about why communists will always win and why the cause of communism will win. So, the first point I think is necessary to bring up is the fact that the reason why Marxist philosophy, the science of Marxism is so effective is because, as I was talking to a buddy of mine yesterday, Marxism accurately explains the conditions in our capitalist society. Marxism resonates in the mind, consciously in the mind, with the workers and the working class, the wage slaves, basically, because it describes their situation exactly the way it is. When the wage workers, hear the true fundamental principles of Marxism and the truth about how they can liberate themselves through applying dialectical materialism, studying the contradictions within society and within our social economic system, and studying what we how we can improve them. Because the better we understand our natural world and our social world and our socio-economic order, our relationship to material production and our relationship to society, the better we understand that, then the faster and more accurately we will be able to liberate the working class. As it was seen many times in the past 100 or 200 years, the capitalist class or the ruling class of many countries has for thousands of years stirred up emotional sentiments, these sentiments of nationalism, and these they use these nationalistic sentiments and try to stir them up within the lower classes so that these lower class people will go to war for them. And if we look at the true nature of all these ruling class wars, most of them throughout history, it is just a ruling capitalist class using the lower classes as pawns in their game so they can gain more resources, more territory, more power, in their situation at the expense of the lives of the workers and the common people. The reason why communists win their wars, the reason the Soviet Union was founded and resisted many imperialist powers like the United States, Britain, France, you know, aiding these reactionary people within Russia and within these countries that formed the Soviet Union. They tried so hard to stop this force, and this is what they call Soviet power. What Lenin called Soviet power. What Mao called red power. Because the working class, when they fight for communism, and they fight for socialism, and they fight to create a working class government, they are not fighting as a pawn in somebody else's game. They are defending their sovereignty and their right to reap the benefits of their labor and to not be a wage slave or subjected by somebody else. They are defending their livelihoods and trying to liberate themselves. So this is such an inspiring thing because it's true. Marxism is a social science. Marxism Leninism is then the science of using understanding class nature and successfully creating a new government, a workers' government. So, give me 1 minute. Thank you so much for your patience. We've seen it in Vietnam, you know. I talked to a veteran a few weeks ago, a few months ago when I was traveling in the United States. I think I was in I was either in Charlotte or Atlanta. I met this elderly man. He served in the Vietnam War, and he told me, he said, you know, one thing about the communists in Vietnam, because I told him I was a communist, I was explaining our cause. He said it didn't matter how many of them died, they would keep on coming. With the communists, they never gave up. They fought to the end, and because they did not care, because they knew they were fighting for something. The soldiers, a lot of the soldiers in Vietnam, the United States soldiers, they did. A lot of them didn't want to be part of that war. You know, why are they sending these troops? You know, I can only imagine how these soldiers felt. Why are we over here killing these people who are just trying to defend their homeland? So the whole overarching point here is that it's shown time and time again throughout history. Whenever we communists actively spend time and energy educating the working class and bringing them class consciousness, then they understand the struggle, because there's so many ways you can explain it. But when you explain it in the way that the person who you're talking to can understand it, it's a working class person, they understand it on a deep level because they're living that. They are in the class struggle. This is their struggle, and we're fighting for their liberation. So this is why communism is a force that it cannot be stopped. And this is where we go into the more scientific part of it, right? Through history, we've gone through different phases of evolution. And we go through different phases of evolution in our consciousness, and that's directly correlated to our role in our environment. When we interact with our environment, it shapes our consciousness. Whenever we build these socioeconomic structures and organize ourselves as humans collectively, these collective socioeconomic structures, these superstructures, further our psychological development. We know we were at and thousands of years ago we were more barbaric as humans. We evolved past that. We got to a point where we had socioeconomic structures, and through these phases of the socioeconomic structures, there's always one ruling class that emerges and that subjects the majority of the people. And we have successfully transitioned to where kings and queens and divine right, feudalism, lords and ladies, where this system is not the major system in the world anymore, as it used to be. There was a point in history, as we all know, for a millennium even, where these divine right just by birth, because you were born a prince, you were born a lord's son, you were of the ruling class that controlled the rest of society. Whenever about a little bit after the Renaissance and the industrial revolution, whenever we started making factories, these factories formed a more collective labor force that wasn't as the specialization of labor that they had before, and it improved humankind's consciousness to another level. Whenever we started creating these factories and these systems to mass produce, our conscious directly upgraded, because we have more control over our environment. We're coming to a more scientific understanding of our world. We're discovering what our world is made of. We're figuring out these complex math problems. We're understanding the nature of our reality better by participating in it and changing it. That goes back to the video I made, the two video series I made, Theory and Practice. That's the theory of social science of Marxist dialectics. We can better understand our world by actively participating in the struggle to change it. So, to better understand the struggle for the working class, we have to actively participate in revolutionary activity, revolutionary class struggle, and educating, organizing, agitating the working class. And when we do that, our consciousness and our understanding of this thing will increase. So back to the whole scientific development of history. This is called historical materialism. So then capitalism, the 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 thought of sovereignty, of civil liberty, mainly civil liberty, the freedom of anyone to have a position in government and to live their life regardless of their birth, and for government to be more based off ability and not birthright. And so that's where a lot of reactionary people get confused, especially in the United States, because in the United States, the way they teach us in the schools, especially in the older generations, is they subtly make this kind of implication that the United States is like the founder of civil liberty, and that nobody else has true freedom like the United States has. This is a cultural phenomenon where people in the United States think they are more free than many other places in the world. But on a world collective level, our human consciousness has and our societies have integrated this change and had more civil liberty, and that happened around the 1700s, the 1800s. And so we begin to have democracy. The thing is though, this democracy was hijacked by a new ruling class of rich people, of merchants, of people who consolidated resources and property, landowners. Just like before, the lords and the ladies and the kings were landowners. These new landowners paid for it, and they have become the capitalist class. There's a small group of people who own a lot of the property and the resources on the planet, and it's concentrated in the United States and the NATO countries mostly. And so we went through that stage of feudalism. We're going through this phase of capitalism. The next progression is socialism. Eventually, the socialist world will have domination over the world market, just like capitalism has now, and just like feudalism did in the past. But we cannot think that this is just going to happen without us doing anything. We have to make it happen. We have to progress the change in our reality by participating in the struggle and scientifically figuring out how we can change it. Marx talked about the difference between evolution and revolution. Evolution, it could take us hundreds, even thousands of more years to get to this point of having a more fair and equal society. A more collective society, and a society where people are not subjugated by others, by the landowners and the people who own the resources, the capitalist class, where everybody's needs are met and everybody contributes based on their ability. We can get there a lot faster. We can get there in a few decades, a few years even. But it's directly related to how much energy and time and work we put into creating this new reality. We create our world with our choices. So another something that just came to my mind, a quote about Marx, right? A quote from Marx, right? Great philosophers all in human history have described the world, but the point is to change it. So the Marxist science and Marxist-Leninist science is a science of how to change the world and how to improve the conditions of the working class. So this is why it is so powerful. It is eminent, as has been seen by philosophized, seen as the progression goes. We see this progression happening, and it's going to happen regardless. But there comes a point we have to protect our environment. There comes a point when there's people dying, there's so many people dying in other countries, people being bombed by the United States, and United States subjecting others with imperialist policies. The United States, the police, and the lockdown here. They're shooting minorities more than other people, but the cops have too much power to where they shoot first, ask questions later. So we don't want we don't want to wait hundreds of years. We don't want this to continue. We want to change this. So to change, we need revolution. To have a revolution, we have to consciously take part in the struggle and take part in changing the fabric of our reality and changing it to what we envision. We have this theory on how to change society. So we have to practice using the scientific method, practice sociology, practice Marxism, Leninism, and observe the effects it's had and the effects our efforts have had, and then take that back, process that, understand better, then continue. Theory, practice, theory, practice. So yeah, I hope that's a good enough explanation. If anybody has any thoughts, comments, questions, concerns, I hope they'll comment and let me know. I'm always learning. There's never a point where you should stop learning in your life, of course. So I'm gonna put this link of this book I wrote down in the description. I'm going to put this link called Socialism in the 21st Century. It's a document somebody made. It has hundreds of sources of the progress socialism has made and many socialist nations. And then lastly, I'm going to put the United States Communist Party website in the description. I hope whoever's watching this, I appreciate you watching it. Hope you have a good day or night or whatever.